176. You heard me right, 176. That is the total amount of goal contributions, goals plus assists, recorded by the top 6, or frankly all 6, of French attackers who are going to the World Cup last season for their respective teams. Leading, obviously, is Kylian Mbappé, followed by Ousmane Dembélé, and the rest of them, Desiree Doué, Bradley Barcola, Jean-Philippe Mateta, they're Marcus Thuram, they're no way, way too far behind. So the question has to be asked, can France become the first team to go 3 out of 3 finals with the same head coach, that is Didier Deschamps? The only team to have come closest to do this feat has been Brazil. But can France make it happen? And if any team can, my money would be on France. So let's preview the French national team and how they are going to perform at the World Cup. This is our series where we look at the top 6 World Cup favorite teams with 6 days to go for the big grand tournament to kick off. So let's go. Let's first have a look at the 26 men squad shortlisted by Didier Deschamps to travel to America for this grand World Cup, the scale of which we've never seen before. So it is I really cannot imagine a different team which has more depth, which has more options, which has more versatility, technicality on any position in the pitch possible. Well, obviously, if you look at the list, their defense and their attack wildly overpowers their midfield, but their midfield is still no joke. However, we'll first look at the goalkeepers, then the defense, and we'll save the sweet French attack for last. So, the 3 goalkeepers selected by Didier Deschamps are Mike Maignan of AC Milan, Brice Samba of Stade Reims, Robin Risset of Lens. Mike Maignan, who's not had a particularly very good season for Milan. Milan were very far behind Inter and even Napoli in the Serie A race, and also his past international tournament, which we will talk about because how much we are hyping up the French attack. The last tournament they had, Euro 2024, the attack really wasn't there. The defense was still pretty solid, but the attack really wasn't there. So yeah, Mike Maignan, I mean, he's replacing Hugo Lloris. Firstly, there's also a number of changes which France has had undergone since obviously 2018 and also since the 2022 World Cup, where this guy literally went up against the god of football in the final, scoring a hat-trick, a performance that I still refuse to accept. That is not perhaps the best performance ever produced on a World Cup final stage. But regardless, Mike Maignan replaces Hugo Lloris to get permanent possession between the crossbars for France. Now, moving on to defenders, because frankly I don't think the other 2 goalkeepers are going to be much of a use for France, and hopefully not so. I don't want Maignan to be injured. I want France to go very much deep into the tournament. The defenders are Jules Koundé of Barcelona, William Saliba of Arsenal, Dayot Upamecano of Bayern Munich, Luca Digne of Aston Villa, Malo Gusto of Chelsea, Ibrahima Konate of Liverpool, no longer of Liverpool to be exact, Lucas Hernandez of PSG, Maxime Lacroix of Crystal Palace, and Theo Hernandez of Al Hilal. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trophy winning defenders right there in the French backline. Jules Koundé, who's had a very much reduced role for Barcelona, is barely featured for them in the past season, but still his pace, his technicality are going to be of as much use to France as ever. William Saliba, a winner with Arsenal of the Premier League and a Champions League finalist. one of the best, if not the best, centre-back pairing to have ever, been fielded in the modern Premier League, alongside Gabriel Magalhaes. Deo Upamecano of Bayern Munich, Champions League semi-finalist and Bundesliga winner of a record-breaking Bundesliga season for Bayern Munich. Luca Digne of Aston Villa, again a Europa League winning player right there. Malo Gusto, we'll come back to him later. Ibrahima Konate of Liverpool, who's decent, who he can put in some very last-ditch challenges, but also he's sometimes very late to track back. He's very late to, follow up pacey players, which is one of the reasons why he's been struggling in the Liverpool backline this season. And to be fair, he's no longer even a Liverpool player, so there's no point. He's going to Real Madrid though. Good for him. Lucas Hernandez of Paris Saint-Germain, again a Champions League and a Ligue 1 winner, a double winning season for Lucas Hernandez. He's as reliable as ever, one of the best players in the French squad. He's so entertaining to watch. He's up and down the pitch in no time. His passes, his crosses are so well timed, so well positioned. Him pairing up with Mbappe on the left wing will be brilliant. Maxime Lacroix, a Crystal Palace player who's had a dip. He had a singular dip in his entire season's performance when he missed a penalty in the FA Cup. However, since then, the resurgence which this entire team of Crystal Palace has had has been unbelievable, securing a decent enough Premier League position given how many players they sold off, and also winning the Europa Conference League, of which obviously he was a really important part. And Theo Hernandez, the other part of the Hernandez brothers, who is now at Al Hilal but formerly was at AC Milan, and he was an important part of, he was the cornerstone of the AC Milan backline. So yeah, you cannot say that just because he's playing in Saudi, he's a completely fallen off player and he's washed up, and players like Lamine Yamal or someone will completely leave him to dust. No, he still is one of the best attacking fullbacks out there, and one of the best attacking fullbacks that Europe can send to the World Cup. Moving on to the midfield, we have Manu Kone of AS Roma. We have Aurelien Tchouameni of Real Madrid. Hopefully he does not miss a penalty this time around if he comes across taking it. Adrien Rabiot of AC Milan, N'Golo Kante of Fenerbahce, and Warren Zaïre-Emery of Paris Saint-Germain. Again, a superb squad. I am expecting, obviously, N'Golo Kante to be used in a much less important, much less pivotal position than he had been for the past 2 World Cups, and more for the past 10-12 years for the French team. He's an absolute powerhouse of a player. He's all over the pitch, but he's been aging slowly. He's not been playing at Chelsea in the Premier League and all those levels of football, and he's slowed down. He has slowed down. So obviously, the age is catching up to him. He's a World Cup player. He's a World Cup winning player, for God's sake. So, N'Golo Kante is there, alongside Mr. Reliable Adrien Rabiot, who's been in the French squad, a regular in French squad since as long as I've been watching Le Bleu. So, Adrien Rabiot, with his physicality, with his defensive midfielding prowess, with his long balls, with his his sharp shooting talents, aiming at the goal from a far position when given enough of space. In fact, he did something of that kind in the game last night against Ivory Coast. Yes, France played Ivory Coast last night. They ended up losing 2-1 after fielding a heavily rotated side in the second half. However, the first half, when all these guys were on the pitch, it was a completely different scenario. France and Mbappe, Cherki, Ulisse, they were all over the pitch, and at one point looked like Ivory Coast were going to be toyed with. But regardless, moving on, Warren Zaïre-Emery, a young upcoming talent for Paris Saint-Germain, again a Champions League winning player. He came on late in the extra half when Paris needed to hold on to the game against Arsenal. He did a really decent job there. Aurelien Tchouameni with Real Madrid, he has the pedigree to win big tournaments. He is a multiple-time Champions League winner. One of the guys who are not going from Real Madrid camp to the French team is Eduardo Camavinga. He's the only man who's missing out for multiple reasons. I could be, but I don't think France, with given how they play on the counter attacks and given how they rely on pace and wing play, Theo Hernandez, Lucas Hernandez, to Ulisse, Mbappe, and all those things, I don't think they require too many midfielders apart from just working as they require people who can track back and who can support their central attackers at times, but they don't need too many midfielders like a side like Spain would. So I think that maybe Manu Kone should have been replaced with Eduardo Camavinga or someone, but I don't think that the midfield, as weak as it may seem, will be in much trouble given how France plays under Didier Deschamps. Sweet attack of the French team. We have Ousmane Dembélé, the defending Ballon d'Or winner of Paris Saint-Germain, a goal scorer in the Champions League final, alongside Desiree Doué, the breakout star of last year's Champions League tournament and last year's Champions League final, who was confirmed to be going to the World Cup as soon as that game ended. Kylian Mbappé of Real Madrid, record-breaking season, although it's been marred by injuries for the guy. He's been seriously injured at multiple stages. His knee was, messed with by the Real Madrid doctors. It was in the left knee. They checked the right knee, something like that. He missed a couple of games towards the start of the season, towards the end in December. He was not, in fact, almost since last February, I think he's been a constant doubt for Real Madrid. He's missed out a lot of games, even in the Champions League. But he is fit. Hopefully, he doesn't get injured the way he got during Euros 2024 and had to play with the mask. We have Michael Olise. This is the man I am interested in watching. I have watched Mbappe the past 2 World Cups. I am interested in giving Michael Olise all my attention and all the chance in the world to make a name for himself. This guy, let's look at Michael Olise's stats, right? Playing for Bayern Munich, this lad has accumulated 15 goals and 19 assists from 23 starts. He has more goals than assists. He has more goal contributions than he has games played. 23 starts and 32 games. It's unbelievable. He has an obscenely, consistent record in attack as well. He's unbelievable, man. I mean, look at his shot map. He attempts shots from. Then we have Ryan Cherki, Man City's new poster child, who has accumulated 4 goals and 12 assists in just 19 starts. 12 assists. He has been the most exciting attacking player in the Premier League this season. Ryan Cherki, he lit up the pitch against Spain just last year, and I am expecting great things from him. He has scored against the Ivory Coast last night as well. Then we have Jean-Philippe Mateta from Crystal Palace. This guy has had a very inspiring redemption story of his own. He was looking to be transferred from Crystal Palace to play in the Serie A for, I think, AC Milan. That ended up not happening because Palace obviously sold a lot of their players. However, being a regular player for Crystal Palace, being a flashy, flamboyant, stylish, beautiful player, he has managed to obviously take them to a European title, scoring 12 goals. For a guy who plays for Crystal Palace, he's not been too bad. In fact, he's been very good. 12 goals playing for Crystal Palace. He's been very good. Especially when they've lost almost all of their attacking prowess this season all of a sudden. Then we have Bradley Barcola who's not had a great season with PSG this season. However, he's still an option with his pace, with his shot power. And speaking of shot power, we also have Marcus Thuram, the primary Inter Milan attacking half alongside Lautaro Martinez, who has scored 13 goals and 6 assists from 24 starts. While this is really, really impressive, what is not impressive, however, is how France performed in the last Euro. So compared to the 2022 World Cup, where if we look at expected goals, France created second highest expected goals with 14.1. They had the second highest big chances created with 21. They had the most touches in opposition box with 187. Argentina, the eventual winners, only had 174, which is not bad, but they had superb attacking power there, man. And in fact, look, goal conceded per match, France 15th, 1.1. So superb defensively as well. I keep saying they are great in defense, even if their attack sometimes does not end up working too well. So Mike Maignan does not have enough, barely anything to worry about. However, in the last Euros, France were only rated 4th, 9.2 XG, way behind Spain in XG created, 5th with in big chances created with 14. They had 206 touches in the opposition box, but they did not score enough. Mbappe only could score from penalties. I think the singular goal they scored from open play in the group stages came from Marcus Thuram. And there was a long-standing narrative that France are just, not able to put the ball in the net from an open play position, no matter how many chances they create, because they lacked finishing ability. I think they were too reliant on Kylian Mbappé, who was playing with an injury, he was playing with a time. I don't think it's going to happen because Michael Olise was not present in that squad. Desiree Doué was not present in that squad. Another guy who was not nearly as good back then as he is now is Ousmane Dembélé. So all these guys combined, a front line of Dembélé, Mbappé, and Desiree Doué, or Michael Olise, not Desiree Doué, he would be second choice. Michael Olise, Mbappé, and Dembélé would set up any defensive plays. However, France could not beat Spain in the last Euros semi-finals, and Spain have consistently beaten much more pacier, much talent. I wouldn't say talented, that would be a dishonor to Spain, but much pacier sides, and playing with a high line of obviously the Barcelona lads who've made up most of the Spanish team have an idea how to counteract the cons of a high defensive line and how to track back and all those things. So yeah, I would love to see how the French attack pans out against Spain, against Germany, against England, against Netherlands. Take all the big teams. I want to see France go up against all of them and see how it turns out. So this was a very elaborate, and honestly, I could have done much better. This is only my first time doing this. I was really nervous about how to get it done. Attempt at talking about one of the most exciting sides this World Cup, and one of these 5 days we will be building up to the World Cup with 5 more team breakdowns, and all of these teams are looking just as good as the other. If they do end up meeting each other, which I don't know, with an added round of 32, an upset can change the entire scenario around. But this World Cup is looking poised to be a really, really exciting summer for international football.